QPR made it 2 home wins on the spin, 5 matches unbeaten and 4 clean sheets in a row thanks to Samfield's second half brace against Oxford United on Wednesday night, and are in turn now closer in points to 14th place Preston than 24th place Hull City, despite having spent 11 of the past 13 matches in the relegation zone. Field's 53rd and 68th minute strikes not only make him joint top scorer at Loftus Road this season alongside Frey, Colley and OG, but also currently Rangers' top scorer for the 2024 calendar year, with a total of 7. As usual, I'm going to break down this midweek performance, so if you like what you see or hear, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, follow, or drop a rating on the platform of your choice. It's been mentioned a few times this season how poorly QPR tend to fare in the third game of a 3-game week, but until Cardiff 2 weeks ago, the same could be said about the midweek match too, with Rangers losing 2 and drawing 1 until that Jan Seller masterclass in South Wales. That midweek record, paired with Rangers' age-old tendency to get results from tough opponents only to roll over to fellow relegation contenders, see the pairings of Sheffield United and Argyle and Luton and Wednesday for most recent reference, made me brace for a potential banana skin after Saturday's jubilation. Oxford United themselves had after all suggested earlier this season that they might just be able to contend in this league, hanging out in the top to mid-table until a slew of injuries to key players kickstarted a gradual landslide towards the drop zone. Cifuentes made 3 changes to Saturday's winning side, 2 forced through injury with Ryan Colley taking Jan Seller's starting place, with the Slovenian facing a long spell out with a hamstring injury, and Harrison Ashby switching back in for Kenneth Powell, presumably saved for Bristol City away after he came off at half-time with some tightness against Norwich. Samfield was the third and final swap for Kieran Morgan, having served his 1-game suspension. But most positively, on the bench for the first time since Middlesbrough at home was Elias Chair. Now I'll caveat what I'm about to say by first saying that a win's a win. Finding a result when you're not at your best usually tends to be the sign of a good team, and given how poorly we started this season, I will take 3 points however they come right now. But that first half was one of the worst I've seen contended between 2 teams at Loftus Road in quite some time. That might sound like hyperbole if you didn't watch the match, but if you were in the ground, I'm sure you would agree. There just wasn't 1 ounce of quality from either team. Oxford United's game plan was clear, trying to hit wingers Plaqueta and Phillips with long balls in the channels, and having very little joy in doing so. QPR really weren't any better, but unlike Oxford, our game plan wasn't apparent in the slightest. As feared after a relentless and energetic performance against Norwich, Rangers now look knackered and despondent from the get-go, with Saturday's press having regressed by several metres. When we were on the ball, we were just so sloppy and completely lacking in invention, often punting it up the pitch with little to no direction. Twice in the opening minutes, Jonathan Varane stole the ball from Oxford's own mishits, only to return it to them instantly with his own wayward balls, but he wasn't the only suspect, with Ashby, Madsen and Dunn all getting in on the act as well. We just looked so lethargic, and that led to a lot of mistakes and a real lack of any creativity. Samfield was always going to come in for Morgan, and rightly so, but Kieran's running was greatly missed in this team in the first half. This standoff of incompetence meant a half with very few efforts from either side, with both teams mustering just 1 shot on target in the first 45. Oxford's best effort arrived early, with Goodrum and Phillips combining well on the right 6 minutes in. The ex-QPR winger looked to be in prime position for a curler on the edge of the box, but couldn't quite shift the ball onto his right, instead teeing up Brannigan for his own long-range effort that took a promising deflection, but was caught by Nardi with ease. QPR's attacking efforts meanwhile were best summed up by our first free kick, which Madsen played short to Saito down the left wing before punting the returned ball well into the away end. In fact, Rangers' sole shot of goal didn't arrive until 43 minutes, with Colley doing well to wrap off a shot after a constant shuffling of possession down the right, but ultimately being unable to challenge the keeper. The worrying thing is a couple of times Oxford United looked like they'd opened us up, and had they not been so toothless, they could have potentially done us some damage. So to say that the arrival of half-time without any added minutes was greatly welcomed is an understatement, but you couldn't help but feel at the break that this was a game that was playing perfectly into the hands of a side yet to earn themselves an away win this season. Thankfully then, this unchanged Rangers side got its act together in the second half, but not until after Varane and Smith both sent their shots well over the crossbar in the first 5 minutes. From then onwards though, Rangers stopped hoofing the ball, composed themselves and cut out the mistakes, and paired with Oxford now deciding to punt the ball long from their own goal kicks, the game shifted into our favour. And really all it took was the first goal to kill the game, because the away side only managed a single off-target shot in the second half. You could feel the first one coming on 53 minutes because QPR was starting to knock it about and preserve it. Steve Cook guided the ball out to Jimmy Dunn, who pushed it out wide to Smith, who had until this point had very little joy with his deliveries, but this time he got the better of Plaqueta and floated a dangerous ball to the back post. And as we've seen a couple of times in these last two games, Colley rose high between two defenders and nodded it perfectly to just in front of the penalty spot, leaving an unmarked Samfield to left foot volley it into the bottom right with absolute composure. It's a superb finish and exactly what this game was crying out for. And you can't understate Colley's excellent assist either, which now takes him to 2 goals and 2 assists at home this season despite having played just 225 minutes. Get the contract sorted. Sam, meanwhile, evidently just loves playing under the lights on Sky Sports, with his 4 league goals in 2024 prior to last night all coming in televised evening games against West Brom, Plymouth and Leeds earlier this year. And clearly he agrees, because 15 minutes later he bagged a second. It came just after Anderson and Lloyd had replaced Madsen and Colley. Field's earlier goal had pretty much killed the game, and by this point Oxford were losing energy and making more mistakes, with Saito stealing the ball from Kyoso just in front of the Oxford box, driving in and peeling it back. It looked like we'd fumbled it at first, with Lloyd trying to control it awkwardly, but that ended up being the perfect decoy for a late arriving Field, who slotted the ball into the right with an absolute striker's finish. That is exactly what we need a midfielder like him to be doing, crashing into the box late, and hats off to him, because after that terrible first half team display, he was the player to grab the game by the scruff of its neck. Saito even very nearly added a third on 75 minutes when he cut beautifully into the box from the right hand side and rattled off a fantastic curled effort, but it whistled just past the left. I thought he had a quiet game by his standards, but his effort is there for all to see, and I can't wait for him to bag his first. Cifuentes' next double of Morgan and Fox for Varane and Smith on 76 minutes led to a bit of a shuffling of the pack, with Ashby moving to right wing and Fox to left back. My theory is that Ashby had tried to play so many long cross-field passes from left back to the right wing in this match to no avail that Marty finally gave in and just stuck the bloke there, but that lasted a matter of minutes when he instantly lost the ball out on the right, which led to him being cast straight back to left back once Chair was subbed on for Morrison on 84 minutes. I will continue to cut Ashby some slack, given he's a very right-footed fullback playing on the wrong side of the defence, especially given we kept yet another clean sheet, but he was very sloppy in this match. So it was a very brief cameo for Chair, but he showed some nice flashes on the ball, and he very nearly set up a Samfield hat-trick on 88 minutes from his free kick delivery, but Field's headers sadly missed just to the right. Somehow 9 minutes of added time followed, with which Rangers duly ran down mostly at the corner flag. So there we go. After waiting 225 days between Loftus Road wins between Leeds and Norwich, it turned out to be a wait of just 4 for the next. It was hardly a classic, and Oxford were the poorest opposition I've watched at home this season, but 10 games ago we were losing these kinds of matches to Portsmouth and Derby. More generally speaking, the turnaround over these past 5 games has been pretty remarkable. In the 5 matches before the international break, we took just 3 points from a possible 18, scored just 2 goals and conceded 7. In the 5 matches since then, we've amassed 11 points from a possible 18, scored 8 and conceded just 1. Weirdly, Nardi's actually had very little to do over the past 2 games, but that's testament to how much our backline has improved too. And that's with a centre-back playing at right-back and a right-back mostly at left-back. I think I'm most assured by the fact that this team has started scoring goals though, because before the international break, I really didn't know where they were coming from. Though there is something weird about the fact that 5 have been scored in 2 games since our last available senior striker got injured. Either way, it's just good to be enjoying some wins again, and although that first half was painful, we found a way, so onwards and upwards. That's all from me for this one. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I'll hopefully catch you next time for my Bristol City preview. Cheers!